memory of her husband, Harav Tzvi Lipa Ben Hillel. Rexford friends of Maddie Friedman, Mondel, Miriam, Bas, Kalman, Ruvain. Bella and David Adler in memory of her father, Eliyahu ben Yosef Cohen. Friends of Honey Chafis, Hannah Shoshana Bas Yuzef. Friends of Jack Prince, Yaakov Yitzchak ben Shmuel Dov. Friends of Sandy Davidoff, Shulamis Bas Chaim Elio. Friends of Judy Cohen, Yehudis Leva Bas Moshe. Friends of Dr. Annette Sapransky, Chana Bas Ephraim Fischel. Month of Learning, Jill and Perry Meltzer in memory of her mother, Vila Bas Avraham, and his father, David Ben Fischel Halevi. Sid Perez in memory of his wife, Sarah Tova Bas Yisrael Dave. Jack Gilman in memory of his mother, Elka Bas Yeshayahu. Week of Learning, Judith and Michael Beretsky in memory of her sister, Gutta Esther Bas Yaakov Yitzchak. And today is the 9th, yes?
Yes.
Day of Learning, Natalie Goldstein in memory of her husband, Kalman Ben Eliyahu Hirsch Halev. May the Neshamas have an Aliyah, the Kala Kranken, a Rafia, and Allah Yidne Yeshia.
Amen. 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 So just to explain today, and I'm really sorry, yesterday I started to in the introduction to explain something that I didn't follow through. The main machlokas we're about to see the very end of it, was between Rabbah and Abaya, was the following. We saw that we don't give a craftsman the normal status quo that we give to a person. Usually if you're in possession, we assume it's yours. If the guy says, look, I used to own it, I say, yeah, you used to own it, but I bought it from you, that's all. Goodbye, Charlie. She said a craftsman doesn't get that benefit of the doubt. But the argument was as follows. Abaya holds that that's really a rule by a craftsman. He really doesn't get the credit. He doesn't have any excuses. Rabbah really holds that even a craftsman can always claim, hey, listen, I'm not your craftsman. You know, if you have proof that it was given to me as your guy, that's a different story. But otherwise, it could be I really don't fix your shoes. I don't fix your garments, etc. I got it for somebody else. So Rabbah really holds it's almost incidental. The fact that the craftsman doesn't have a chazaka, it really has to do with witnesses. It has to do with witnesses. Yes, but it's really not an essential point where we take away from him the normal. He really gets the normal credit that every person gets for being in possession of something. That was the argument. After a bit of back and forth yesterday, a lot of back and forth, so we concluded finally the argument came down to a single case, and that is if there are no witnesses that saw the previous owner give it to the craftsman as a craft, and yet we see it in his possession, does he have a claim or doesn't he have a claim? That was the argument of Abaya and Rabbah. So today we're going to see the clincher, okay, of that argument.
I always hear Abaya and Rabbah. It's Dr. Rabbah.
This case, well, Rabbah's the Rebbe.
Yeah, Rabbah is the previous generation.
Rabbah was the Rebbe. Rabbah, yeah. In fact, that's why some people say that Abaya's real name was Nachmani, but and Rabbah's father's name was Nachmani. Mm-hmm. So he didn't want to call. You don't when you have a common name. When you have a common name, you don't refer to. You don't refer to the student that you don't want to say the student's name. But the same name. No, there's actually a difference between common names and uncommon names. But anyway, that's not the point now. But he didn't want to call his Talmud, so he called like a diminutive. He said like Abba, like Abaya, my daddy, my dad called him Abba. So that was the thing. Was also the Rabbi Yosef also. But anyway, so here Abaya is debating with
Rav also.
Yeah.
Rav is
also a diminutive. Yeah. Was Rabbi Abba, yeah. Okay, so we're at the final clincher. So what's the law? No, it's when it's down to when there are no witnesses, when there are no witnesses, and we see the object in the hands of the guy. So really, Rabbah holds well. He has the credit. He can still get the credit of a normal possessor and have a claim. And the buyer says no. At this point, we come to the clinching argument. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines from the top, and it says Mesi Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Nachman Bar Yitzchak comes in as this final Nakat Kasha on Rav Bar Yitzchak. We learned earlier. Remember, we learned We said what? That the Mishnah told us what? That a craftsman doesn't get the benefit of possessive status quo, status quo possession. But only a craftsman doesn't get it. Or other machir, but a regular person, a non-craftsman, he gets the benefit of possession, even though someone can show that they were prior owners of this object. As long a normal person, if he has it, he can say, huh? Mem vav amid aleph, a little bit after this fourth line, 5 line. And now, Hechi Dummy, what was the case where a craftsman doesn't get the benefit and a regular person does? Hechi Dummy, what's the case? If it's a case where what, where we have witnesses that it was given to him and that we saw it, another person, why does he have a benefit? If we know that somebody gave it to him as a deposit, we have witnesses that he got as a deposit, even a normal person won't get the benefit of possession. Must be what, there's no witnesses who saw it given to him as a deposit. But nevertheless, we learned in that case, the craftsman doesn't get the benefit of possession, okay, and a normal person does. So you see what? That even when there are no witnesses, once we know that it's in the person's possession, he doesn't get the benefit. And that to Yufta the Rabbah. And you see that seems to be a knockout blow to Rabbah. And the Gemara says, yes, indeed, to Yufta, it is indeed a knockout blow. And I tried to say a few times to you that you notice I started out the words and I said kusha. So it's a problem because it's a question. Really, I told you, and I'll elaborate this in the other when we hope we'll have with advanced classes here. But the kashas never prove anything. So tiyufta is just a word for a very strong kasha. So it's a very funny point. Every kasha can be answered because a kasha is not a proof. A proof is conclusive. It's you can't escape it. A kasha just makes it very difficult, very unpleasant to hold the position that you're holding. So why do we have tiyufta? So the answer is that tiyufta is a value judgment, where the Gemara makes a value judgment that even though this is really, so to speak, a circumstantial argument, but it's so compelling that it has the same value as a proof. And we see sometimes the Gemara will answer tiyufta. Tosfos answers tiyuftas all the time. We can see so it really is a value judgment of the Gemara, and that's why we call it a tiyufta. Tanarabbanan. We learned the following very interesting case, fascinating case, and you'll see before a lot of people make a mistake about this. So what happens? He said, let's say, you gave your suit to the tailor to fix, okay, or your coat. What happened was when the tailor gave you back your cloak that you gave him, he gave you back somebody else's. You come home, you say, oh boy, he gave me somebody else's coat. So the answer is you're allowed to continue using it until the original guy comes back to take his coat. You can use it until the guy comes and takes his coat. It's not your coat, but you can use it. But based on Abel, based on Mishnah, but let's say you were just at a Shiva house and somehow they handed you the wrong coat, or you had a wedding party and somebody handed you the wrong coat. You're not allowed to use it up until the time the guy comes and takes it back. So it's a little bit of a problem. The cases seem identical in both cases.
Is that the shul courtroom too?
Yes, yeah. You can't.
No one handed it to you.
No. Only by we said this specifically. When the craftsman handed the other guy's coat, you can use it till the other guy gets his coat. But it's not a craftsman case. If you went to somebody's shiva house, you had to go to a wedding meal, etc. Then you got mixed up. It's somebody else's coat. You can't use the coat. So we got a problem here. Yeah. What's the difference? All right, I understand what's going on. Since when can you use people's property? My shana ratio, my shana safe. But what's the point? Since when can you use other people's property? How come in the ratio you could use somebody else's property, and in the safety you can't use somebody else's property? It's a very strange thing. Amarab, he says, I was sitting in front of my uncle, Rabbi Chia. Well, Marlon, he said to me, I'll tell you why. Here's the point. There's a reasoning here why when the craftsman gives you the other guy's coat, that you're allowed to use it. Isn't it quite normal? Let's say a guy will give the craftsman, say, look, fix this garment and sell it for me. So since so we're going to say that what happened here was really what? This guy was really told by the other person to sell his coat. He said, fix it and sell my coat. Sell the coat for me. Be my take it on consignment. Sell the coat. What happened was that this guy made a mistake and he sold your coat. And that's why when you came, he gave you the other guy's coat because he had rights to the other guy's coat. So it's no problem. So till it works out, but the main point is what? You can assume that you can have at least a possibility that you got the coat legal. But by the other cases, you got the wrong code. Nobody got any permission to do anything. What are you doing to the other guy's code? But you should know that even this law it has to be reasonable. If you gave it let's say you give it cheap, you put in a cheap $80 suit. The guy gives you back $1,000 suit. You can't use that suit. He's not giving you $1,000 suit for your ratty suit. He didn't sell your ratty suit for that price. Yeah.
I used to buy Burberry rings.
Yeah.
Like $8.
Yeah.
All three of them disappeared from the coat.
Oh, really?
Then I went to one of those second-hand thrift shops, and I bought a raincoat for $17. That was 30 years
Nobody
ago.
ever took it.
Still have it.
That's how it goes.
Nobody takes the crappy one.
That's how it goes.
Good one.
So in the bicycle business, you have the same rule. Whenever you people when they're afraid of theft, they either drive ratty bicycles,
Or they buy very expensive.
or they take expensive ones and mess them up. They scratch
To make
them
it look
to make it look ratty. They'll take an expensive bicycle and they'll shave it down, sand it, and make it patchy, etc. So people leave it alone. That's the one of the tricks.
Never.
Yeah, I used to on the I think it might be the A train. There's one train from Manhattan. It's a long ride to Brooklyn. It goes to Flatbush. I
The
think
train goes
it's the A train.
Far Rockaway, actually.
No, so it's not the A train. It's another one there. There's one train goes to Manhattan, but the point is like this: it has a
L line, maybe.
whatever. It has a long time where there's no stops, and it's a dangerous line. It empties out, and just very bad guys are in there. So I used to have what I would do was when the train would empty, and I was there with a few guys, I'd lean my head back and I'd slobber, and
No, that's for sure.
yeah, they leave me alone.
Yeah, but you turned $1,000 suit into a $70
Yeah,
suit. Like clobbered.
Yeah, that's it. That was the point. That was the point. They leave me alone. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So now he says you have to learn this rule that we said that you're allowed to use the guy's coat. Okay, when they got it, because we're assuming that the guy really was he sold your coat by mistake. He says Elohu. Okay. Oshanu Elohu. It only be what? It has to be that the craftsman himself gave him the coat. We understand that he knew what happened and he made the switch. Let's say the craftsman's wife or the craftsman's kids gave you the wrong coat. No, you're not allowed to. Because they don't know what's going on. They probably never had permission. The who, and also even with the craftsman himself gives it to you, still don't right to use the coat. The Amrle Talis Stam. It's where what? It's where he said like say, here, take the suit, take the coat. Okay, Aval Talisra, he said, take your coat. No, then you can't use it because he really thought he's giving him his coat. I love Talis Day, it's not his coat. The whole point is we have a backup story here that essentially the merchant is correcting his mistakes, but he has rights to the coat that he gave you. Understand? So it's all works.
It would also work for a clerk in this store because he's a shliach of the owner.
Yeah, assuming it essentially has to be a person that's in the know. And in general, I told you, I've argued this point a lot. A lot of times it happens the other way, unfortunately. The person who's working doesn't have rights to do what they do. And you really have to worry about it. No, the person will give you perks or things like that. They really have they're stealing.
Yeah,
They're stealing. You have to be careful. Not everything. The fact that the guy's employed doesn't mean he had rights to, to distribute things without permission. Abaya says to Rava, he says, let me show you what these liars do in Pumbedisa. He says, a guy says to him, he says, listen, he says, give me my suit, give me my garment that I gave you to fix. So the guy who's a liar, what he says, he says, so I didn't get any coat from you. He says, 1 second. But I have witnesses that saw essentially what looks. I have witnesses, not exact, because I have witnesses, you can pull it out. I have witnesses that see a coat that looks pretty much like the coat I gave you. He says, no, it's not your coat. It looks like it, but it's not your coat. So he says to him, Afkinu v'nachzinu. He says, okay. He says, so bring it out. Let's get a look. He says, Amrle. So he says to him, he says, I'm not showing it to you. I have no reason to take out somebody else's coat. I told you it's not your coat, and I'm not taking it out, I'm not letting you look at it. I'm a rubber shopper coming in. So Rubber says, the guy, it works. He told him well, and you can't force him. He says, why? Because raw time, because remember, we learned in earlier advice, the guy sees is a slave, etc., etc. Okay, there, when you have witnesses that your garment is enhanced, and then you can pull it out. But if you don't have witnesses, their witnesses only
They
thing.
didn't give him a receipt, a chit,
No, this
slip?
is this is the non-receipt time.
But in
okay.
competition,
Yeah.
they should have.
Yeah.
These guys, all
Yeah.
the dry cleaners.
Yeah,
truck.
you guys are crooks. Amar Bashi, he says, but he says, he says, okay, you know what? He says the shopkeeper, the craftsman, he pulled one over, and he says, Bichakim, however, he says the truth is if the client, is smart, what he can do is like this. Mashri le raw, okay, what he can do, he can force him to show it, okay, you can make it, he can turn the case where he didn't have witnesses that his garment was there, as if it was a case that they had witnesses his garment was there. Why? Because he'll say to him, he does it like this. He speaks to him conspiratorially. He speaks to him in a whisper, so the court will never ask us. He's about to lie himself. He's about to lie now. The guy who got lied to is about to lie to fix it. What's he says? He says, come on, you got my talus, and I can't get it away from you. You're right. He said, but why are you holding on to it? What happens? He says, you have a claim on me. You claim I owe you $100, and my talus is $100. You're keeping my talus because you can't prove I owe you $100. You keep my talus to make me pay you. He says, he says, listen, let's just take it out, and we'll take it to the experts to evaluate it. He says, and since I assume the garments can be worth, a little more than what I owe you, says the experts will look at it. They'll give you your full price. Okay, you're right. I owe you 100. They'll give it to you, and I'll get the change. At least let me get my change. I would say so. Therefore, what? So once he brings it out, so he can take it out, and he gets a chance to what? To identify, to see if it's really his, and to identify it. So he can trick him. Even though he doesn't have witnesses that he has, but he can get it to bring it out in front of him. But I say, okay, Amalei Ravacha Breda Abdul Ravashi. So he said to me, I said, no what? He says, even so, the craftsman can outsmart him. Matzi Amalei, because he can say back to him, yes, I don't need your evaluation. I know what the coat's worth. He says, the people who came before you, long before you were on the scene, I already had it evaluated. Okay, and I know that it's not worth any more than the amount you owe me. It's worth exactly the amount you owe me, and therefore you're finished. Nothing you can do. Then we set a rule that a sharecropper doesn't have a chazaka. Knows what happens, and the sharecropper was why? Because we know the fact that sharecropper is occupying the land, so to speak, working in it, taking the produce, proves nothing because that was his job. His job is to work the land and work the land for the, even though he doesn't own it.
Also not taking all of the.
Oh, so 1 second.
Splitting it
So
up.
one second. 1 second. So the Gemara says, no, what are you talking about? Isn't the case exactly where he's taking all of it? Am I? He says, why doesn't he have a chazaka? He said, Adi the palka. If the original deal, usually a sharecropper, let's say it's a half, a third, quarter, he was taking, let's say, a half, and now he's taking all of it for 3 years. So you should have a chazaka. Why? It's mashma that even if he, for 3 years in a row, he took all the produce of the thing, you still won't give him the credit that he bought it from the guy. Amar Yochanan said, you're right. He says, really, if it was a normal sharecropper, he used to get a half or a third or a quarter, and now all of a sudden, for 3 years in a row, he took everything, he would have the benefit of possession. If he claimed that he bought it from the owner, he used to be a sharecropper, and now he's an owner, he would be believed. It says, what's the case? Was the case where we're even using all the crops for 3 years doesn't award him a status quo to back up his claim of possession, to back up his claim that he bought it. It's where it was, so to speak, it was an ongoing, so generational sharecroppers. They've been working this land forever, and they can't get rid of them. They have like they've been working it forever. You can't get gone. So those people, even though they worked it for 3 years and took all the produce for 3 years, why did they get it? Because once it's a long-term thing, it's quite normal to change the deal. Even though you normally the deal would be, let's say the sharecropper each year takes a half or a third or a quarter and gives the rest to the owner. But once they're going to be there basically forever, they say, look, it's too complicated. Here, you take 3 years and I'll take 3 years. You take 3 years, I'll take 3 years, whatever it is. You take 2 years, I'll take 3 years, whatever the is. So he gives them, you'll get so many years, you get all the produce, and the other times I'll get all the produce, whatever the proportion is. And therefore what? Once it's a generational group of sharecroppers, they never get the benefit of having taken everything for 3 years. That doesn't prove that doesn't establish any strength to back up their claim with no deed that they bought the property. Rav Nachman said, what about this? Let's say a guy's a sharecropper, and he instead of working the land for 3 years, he sub sharecropped it. He had sub sharecroppers come and work the land, sublet it, and for 3 years. Yesh lo chazaka. That actually gives him a status quo to claim that he bought the land. My time, not the law. It's not normal for any true landowner to let strange, not to let strange sharecroppers that he didn't hire come onto his land. He won't do it. Why? Because he doesn't trust them. They'll mess up the land. So if the original guy let a guy sub sharecrop for 3 years, then it backs up the claim of the sharecropper who sub sharecropped that he owned it. Why? Because no guy would let a sharecropper put sub sharecroppers on without permission. Rav Yochanan, or he says, Ari Shekolak, he said, listen, what about this? Let's say there's a sharecropper, and but he sublet only part. He needed help. So he couldn't do all the work. So he had sub sharecroppers do part of the work on the field. Yeah, like a part of the field. So that will not give him a status quo. My time. What's the reason? There we can say There we can say, that's more normal that the owner would have given him permission. That thing, he needs a little help, they would have given him permission. To put the other guys on, really, no. But under his watchful eye, so to speak, he's still there. He's in the field and he's giving them part. That'll let him do. Rav Nachman bar Chisda, Rav Nachman bar Yaakov. There's two Rav Nachman. So you see, Rav Nachman bar Yaakov is the normally when it says Rav Nachman bar Yaakov, whenever we just say Rav Nachman, that's the one we're talking about. So he says, he says, look, teach us. He says, teach us, enlighten our eyes, teach us. Aris made, Ena made. Here, let's say somebody comes to the owner of the field and claims that the owner has a field that was stolen. He really owned the field. And now we want the sharecropper to testify for somebody else on behalf of the owner of the field. Can he or cannot? Is he an interested party and it's disqualified or not? Rav Yosef Kamei. So Rav Yosef was sitting in front of Nachman Yaakov when the Shaila came in. Amar Leim, Rav Yosef said to him, to Rav Nachman Yaakov, he says, Hachamar Shmuel. Shmuel said, it's made. He said, we have a rule. A sharecropper can indeed testify, and he's not considered an interested party. What are you talking about? We learned that he can't. He is an interested party. I said, look, Kasha, it depends. There are two different cases. In one case, he's interested. In one case, not. When you say that the sharecropper is not allowed to testify, when is he called an interested party? The ikapira ba'ara. That's when there's produce on the ground. He has what to lose. If it turns out that it was stolen, even the produce on there they won't get, because remember property that wasn't supposed to be planted, etc., all these things, he'll lose out. So therefore, if there's produce on the land, he stands to lose. If the land doesn't belong to the landowner, he cannot testify because he's an interested party. But when we said that he can't testify, he's not called an interested party. The leka pira ba'ara. It's when there's no produce on the land, and also, by the way, where he hasn't put in any work that year. He's a past sharecropper, but he didn't put any work in that year, and therefore he's not called. Yeah, he's not called an interested party. What about future years? He wants to get to work again. It's true, but that's not enough to call him. It's too many ifs, whether he'll ever get it again, to call him an interested party. And even though it's not a long page, it's a good stopping place because it's one piece. It's the next page.
You gonna stop here?
Yeah, because it's a one by okay. Everyone have a wonderful Erev Shabbos. A wonderful Shabbos. Okay. All right. What's gonna be?
All right. What's gonna be?
That's correct.
Mashiach is gonna come. Our apartments are gonna be worthless. Because all the Jews will move out and nobody will buy the apartment.
Gewaldig.
No, I mean you pay extra to be close to the shul. But the Goyim don't care about that.
That's right. They're not gonna pay that money.
That's right.
If we pass inspection, then they'll be worth a lot.
I told you that one year at a little town in Russia. So the esrogim were always usually mentally they used to get them. So 1 year the Jews couldn't get any esrogim, and only a goy had esrogim, and he was gonna scalp them. You know, he knew they're gonna pay everything. Mamish got day by day, the Jews are waiting. They're not getting the shipment of esrogim. Mamish Erev Sukkot. The guy is up in the middle of the night. He can't wait. He's gonna make a bundle, and he walks out and he sees in every Jewish shop, everybody, the butcher, the baker, every Jewish, the tailor, everybody's got a basket of esrogim in the show window. He figures out he's finished. He runs to the shop and he sells out at cost because he's afraid he's finished. He won't make any money. And then he finds out that all the esrogim in the Jewish stores are made out of wood.
Oh, lemons. I heard this story. They were
They
lemons.
wood. They wood. This was wood esrogim. They painted them.
Well, there's also that typically there would be one esrog and lulav in the whole town, and everybody would
Yeah.
line up
Wait,
to
you
say
just been like a benching with the rugs, and so the little stuff. Yeah,
that's
we had
where
one.
because that was the only
And
one
he's
in
the one that
town.
had it, so they all had to line
That's
up.
why. And the other one was that because they assumed that the rabbi's one was kosher.
I mean, growing up, not everybody had a little bit of that.
When I grew up, it was the
Maybe
only
when
the
the whole
rabbi
show-
had it, the cantor.
You
Yeah, we're in the
grew
house.
up in Baltimore. They still have a takana that the price they fixed the highest
Oh, that's-
price.
that's good.
Last
That's
year
good.
it was $42.
Pretty good.
And my son got a better esrog for $42 than I got for my $300
Yeah.
S because
That's
they
it.
wax out the price.
That's right. That's smart.
That's a good thing.
And, my grandfather's brother, uncle was called him. Used to send us one from Israel every year.
Oh yeah.
You know what the get a lulav without buying an esrog is? You can't.
Yeah.
Wait,
That's
you
it.
buy a dairy, $50 they give you for a dairy esrog from Egypt, which are very good esrog.
No, we had that.
I mean,
so you
lulav.
had to get the lulav in the arugos for the paying.
Yeah.
Today they have a la carte because there are 5 or 6 grades of lulavim. There's the
Oh my God.
$30 dairy, the $50 dairy. It's become a whole industry. And in the markup, you talk about ono. My daughter-in-law's brother is a meicher. So my son gets for the whole family in Philadelphia for like $220. It would be that for just one esrog at the guy's normal markup.
Right.
And it's not considered ono because that's his parnasa for the year.
The big
You know, it
business.
was in Publix a couple of weeks ago. Big look at it. A bag of esrogim. I think there was 7 or 8 of them in the bag
Really?
for $5.
They're selling a
What?
slogan?
There were lemons.
They looked like the esrogim. I mean, they ain't putting them citrons.
Citrons. I didn't know
Wow.
other people even use them.
Yeah, but they
Yeah.
use them in make citron
Jelly.
jelly. They
Yeah.
make
It
citron.
isn't that they're
You
not
put
as
it in
strong.
vodka and you make.
Oh, that sounds
Well,
good.
that's what I do. Yeah, I make esrog matzah.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah,
It would not last. If you bought it now, it wouldn't last. It would start,
Dribble.
you know, because once you harvest it, it's got a lifespan.
Okay.
Tell you the truth.
Thank you very much. Robert.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow, God willing.
All right, now what am I? Can't go home. I watch